We have all of our parts. We have our handle, our front, our bottom, our two sides, and our back. And it's going to be time to do our final assembly in a minute. But before we do that, we want to make sure that we've taken a moment to sand and clean up any faces, especially on the redwood, because it'll be much easier to do so now it's all apart as opposed to later when it's all assembled. So we're going to take it to the sanding room, make sure that we're ready to go over there, and then we'll come back here and put it together. Okay, so we're getting ready to sand here. We want to do a couple of things. We want to make sure the dust collection is the most important part with this. So we're going to make sure that the blast gates are open. We're going to go turn on our dust collection unit, and then you can see here in our table what should happen is all of the dust that we're producing from, we're going to use the palm sander here, which is really easy to turn on. It's just this button here. And that'll rotate. If we need to change it, it's just a Velcro stick. Hopefully keeping the dust collection to a minimum, or the dust in the air to a minimum. We're also going to wear a dust mask to make sure that we're not breathing in any of the fine particles. So we're going to turn that on, we'll sand it up, and then we'll go from there. For this small piece, right, for my handle, I'm just going to hand sand it just a little bit to kind of clean up the edges that the CNC router left. Alright, so we cleaned up the handle. So again, we're going to be using that with our hands to make sure those edges are knocked down a little bit. And our redwood especially is going to clean up really nicely when we take off and make it that sanding piece. So it's kind of however you want it to look. It's time to bring it all back to our assembly table and start putting this thing together. Alright. Time for our final assembly here. So what we're going to start off with is attaching the front. Pick a side that looks the best. Almost did it wrong. You want to make sure that your grooves are on the inside there. We're going to attach the front to our sides, and that's going to use a screw. And so to do that, we're going to make sure that we have it lined up. It's hard to hold things in place, and so this is where using some clamps to help you out is going to be really helpful. So you're going to clamp wood. Let's see how I want to do this here. I'm going to come from the side. So you just clamp it in. I want to make sure things are square, so I'm going to put my speed square in the corner when I line it up. And then to do this, so that I don't split the wood, I'm going to drill a pilot hole, and then so that the screw doesn't stick out, I'm actually going to use a countersink bit before I put the actual screw into the wood. So let's see how this goes here. There's one. And I'm going to use my countersink bit. And I'm going to grab a screw. And let's see how we do. Now again, I can hold it by hand to make sure that things line up as I need them to. And nice and slow. And And there we go. You can feel it snug up and tight up. So I'm just going to repeat that on the front, and then I'm going to do it on the side. And then we're getting there with the assembly piece. All right, I'm going to do the same thing. I can probably take my clamp off on the side. So I'm going to rotate. I'm going to drill a pilot hole, and then countersink it and bring it through. Get our front there. Yeah, slide it up and rotate around. So that is one way that we can attach lumber, right? And you can see that I can't feel the screw. It's sat down there pretty well. I have a little bit of warp in the front, so I have a gap that I'll have to deal with down the road. But it's pretty solid. My next step here is to use some dowels in the back to put in our MDF back. So this is going to sit in here. And again, this is probably getting some help with my clamps would be good. And we're going to use that corner jig that we 3D printed. So this is going to sit here, and we're going to come down. Now we need a specific size bit for this one. We need a 1/4 inch bit because what we're throwing in there is a 1/4 inch dowel. So basically it's going to be 3 holes, boom, boom, boom. And we're going to then insert the dowel with a little bit of glue, and that'll be another way to kind of hold that wood in place. And this is where a lot of the kind of warp in your wood, especially the sides, is going to start to show. And I can see I've cut it too tall on the back. I have a gap here. If I was being good about it, I could take it to the table saw and rip it down to be the right height. But for right now, I'm going to let it be and go from there. Actually, I am. I'm going to take it to the table saw. I'm going to rip off that one little piece so that it is the right height, and then I don't have to worry about it down the road. Okay, so I took that piece to the table saw to take off, about 1/8 of an inch. It fits a lot nicer now on the top. It's a little bit more flush, so I'm feeling more confident that I can put this together now. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our little corner jig that we created, which is probably overkill for what we need to do here. But I'm going to have it set up so that we can drill in with our 1/4 inch bit and get a spacing into both pieces of wood that's the same. So I have it set up. I'm going to put a 1/4 inch bit in my drill. Which will fit my 1/4 inch dowel, and we'll see how we do. So I'm going to drill all the way through from the wood into the MDF. Top. Alright, so I changed my process a little bit. I'm just using the jig freehand. I marked it and I drilled those holes. And now I'm going to put those dowels in. Okay, I'm just cutting it. When I have you guys do this, I'm going to have you hold the dowels in the vise. I'm not doing a great job because I'm holding my hand near the blade. Pound it in. Down. Alright, and there we go. We've created using our dowels, another way to fasten our wood together. I'm going to clean those up off the end, and then what it's time to do after that part is to put our bottom on. Hopefully our bottom fits. And then once it's there, we're good to try to put the handle on. Okay, we got our corners. Now it's time to put the bottom on. This is where everything's going to get squared up, and hopefully things start to fit as intended. All right, time to put our bottom on, for better or for worse. Hopefully it gets squared up correctly here when we're doing it. This is where a lot of our errors, as we've kind of measured and gone throughout, is going to come back to stack up. So all right, time to assemble our bottom here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the brad nailers. So this is a nail gun. This one is battery operated. It doesn't have a compressed air hose attached to it. We'll talk about the ones that do have compressed air attached. All right, not totally sure when my video cut out, but basically we use our nail gun, our battery operated nail gun, to put the bottom on, and with some glue on it to help hold it. And right now you can see I have a little bit of separation on the back, so I'm just going to let this glue up. I'm going to clamp this so that will hopefully stay together. Might have to reinforce that down the road. And all that's left is to put our handle on the front and then clean it up a little bit. So I might clean it up a little bit first before I put my handle on, and then we can kind of go from there and see how we're doing. Okay, so it's time for a kind of final assembly here. Let this glue sit for a while so that our back is set up nicely. Basically what we need to do is we need to put our handle on. And so we're going to put it in the front, and we're going to glue, and we're going to drill a hole as best we can, and then we're going to take one of our 1/4-inch dowels, bring it through, and then sand it down, and we'll see how we do here. So we want it, there's not a perfect answer to our placement here, but I want to do two things. We're going to use our square, combination square, to basically figure out getting this in a line that is perpendicular to the side. So we want to make sure that this isn't off center. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to go up from the bottom, and I'm just kind of eyeballing a distance that I think looks good. So this for me is 3 inches from the bottom, and that seems a little high, so I'm going to bring it down to 2 inches from the bottom. And then I'm going to roughly kind of place that there. That looks okay because I'm going to put a name at the top here. So 2 inches from the bottom, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of lightly mark where that goes approximately. And then what I want to do is I want to figure out my center line. So I'm going to, this is 11, so at 5.5, right, that's going to be my center line. So I'm going to set my combination square here to 5.5, and from my side, I know that's going to be my center line. So when I put this down here, I'm going to eyeball it. It'll be close enough for what we're doing. That's where my handle is going to go. So what I want to do is I'm going to use some glue. That's not going to hold it immediately, so I'm also going to have to clamp this to make sure that it doesn't move, because as I start to drill this, it's going to want to move on me. And because this part is curved, I am going to probably use a little kind of center punch and then a pilot hole and work my way bigger. I'm not going to just try to go in with the 1/4" bit right off the bat. So let me get some glue on it, let me clamp it up, and then we'll see how we do here getting this dowel installed. All the way through. I want to insert the dowel so that I have that holds, it doesn't move. So I'm going to cut this. Let's see, I don't need a ton. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the dowel because I don't want this coming out, obviously. This is going to hold this in place. Just a little bit of glue on the side. And get my wooden mallet. That's good. It left me plenty on the inside to cut off. So I'm going to go my other side here. All right, there we go. We got it in there. I'm going to let this glue set. I'll leave my clamp on, and then we'll come back later and clean it up. Okay, so for my Omnibox, for the last part, I'm going to put on some vinyl. And this is not a heat transfer vinyl. This is, think of it like stickers, right? So this is one that we are going to put on, and then we're going to cut out. We're not going to have to mirror this one. So I'm going to open up Silhouette Studio. And while that's getting loaded up, I'm going to put this in to my machine. It's on my cutting mat, and I just hit the arrow to bring it in. And this is going to be relatively simple because it's just text. So I'm going to bring over my text component, and this is my Omnibox. And move it. And basically I want to figure out how big I want this thing, so I need to measure on my box. I'll be right back. So that's 8 by 2 1/4, a little bit taller. And then basically I pick a font that I want. So that's simple text. It's something that should be pretty easy for this to cut and easy for me to put on. So that's what I'm going to do. Well, now that I'm ready, I'm going to send it to the machine. And I need to change the material type to basically just be vinyl. And I don't want it. It's not a heat transfer, so I don't have to mirror it. So this is glossy vinyl. And should be ready to go. And when I have it, I'm going to select the text that I want to actually cut, and I'm going to hit send, and then it should cut it out. Okay, so that piece is done. I'm going to clean it up, see if I can. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to basically cut this out, take it off, and cut here, making sure I don't cut my actual text. Alright, so my text is here, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take off the outer part. Alright, there we go. Now, the problem is, how do I get this right onto my actual piece? And for that we need transfer tape. So transfer tape, pull it out. Is basically going to sit on top of this part, and then we can peel it off and the vinyl should stick to the transfer tape, and then we can actually transfer the vinyl. So let me reposition the camera so you can see this better. So I need like that much. So my process is I'm going to peel the transfer tape, put it on top of the vinyl, and then try to peel it off and just get the vinyl. I'm going to use the flattener here to really make sure that the transfer tape is stuck well to the vinyl. And when I'm ready to apply, what I'll do is we'll pull the transfer tape off, and what we should see is that the vinyl, right, is coming with me, and then I can place it on my piece that I want. All right, it's time. The glue is dried. We're going to release this here. A couple of things that we're going to notice. We have our dowels are protruding through on the inside, so we got to clean those up. I'm going to use a little saw to basically cut them as flush as I can. Sandpaper to kind of knock that down, make it as flush as I can. I also have some files, so the file will help me get that flush. So basically what I'm going to do is clean these edges up, do some final sanding, and then we're going to put on our vinyl. All right, so it is pretty cleaned up here. You can see I added off screen, I put in our last piece, which is our cardboard insert here. So that goes in as our divider in the back. And it seems pretty well attached. The glue and the dowels are going to give it some real structural support and give us something that we can manipulate it with. So our last part of this project is to put our vinyl on. So let me reposition here. And I've already cut it out on the vinyl machine. And looks like it's just going to fit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to peel it off the transfer tape, and then I'm going to use my scraper to put it on the wood, and hopefully it sticks. Alright, so I'll make sure that this is pretty dust free. And here we go. So carefully peel off, making sure my vinyl is coming with it. If you have really small, intricate text, it might be harder to get off. So something a little blockier is probably going to be the best. All right, I'm going to get that lined up. Give it kind of a light piece. There we go. And now I want to really get that vinyl on there. And try to peel it off, and if the vinyl doesn't stick, which it's not, we got to basically do it again. Keep that piece there. Alright, it's on there. I'm going to fold my transfer tape in top so it's not sticky, and basically now really make sure that all of that vinyl is stuck down. I don't want it peeling off down the road. Alright, there we go. We have our vinyl on there. If we were doing different projects, right, we can now paint on top of this and take the vinyl off, and we'd have painted on there. We can leave the vinyl. It's really up to you where we go from there. Now looking at mine, I can see I have a pretty good gap right here because I didn't cut it very well on the bandsaw. So I'm going to use some sawdust and some glue to basically fill in that gap so it's not so visually gross. And then we're done. At this point you can go as far as you want, cleaning up edges, making sure it's all together, but that's it.